Hey everybody, this is Alex from Men Are Speaking, and today I want to talk to you about a little bit about how attitudes determine latitudes, right? How the personality of a people change its trajectory, and you can tell a lot about a people by what you allow them to do and how they react to it, right? Are they going to abuse the power, or are they going to refuse the power? Okay, there's different reactions. The thing about America, as I was thinking at my breakfast table this morning, was that if you want to have a bowling champion and you give everybody the gutter guards, right? Like if you're bowling and there's no ability to get a gutter shot, you're not going to have champions because you start to remove the distinction between winners and losers, and you don't allow losers to lose. Now, I am not so hard-lined of a Darwinist that I think that we should just have people who lose stay in the gutter forever. Obviously, that's crazy. What you want to do is you want to maximize the number of times they can come back up, try again, right? With that, within reason, under their own resources, under their own strength, but you don't allow them to go too far down the hole. One of the things that we do in America is we have bankruptcy, right? So if someone loans you money, they're also liable for the money lost in terms of bankruptcy, right? Like they might never get paid back, or they might get paid back only the principal without the interest. There are some arrangements that can be made. It depends on the type of bankruptcy that you do. But America allows you to have a reasonable second, third, fourth, fifth chance, right? You can have a lot of chances in America, but we don't put safety nets on you. And what we see right now is the UK, the sort of personality of the individual UK people, despite their background, right? Despite let's say Sargon of Akkad or Carl Benjamin, right? You'd think that he would want to maximize free speech and remove censorship from the internet, but his personality is that he thinks that there should be safeguards for children and that the government should help children. So this is the central difference between Americans and Europeans, I think, right? And what I would call family, philosophy, and being bitch made, all right? So in America, we feel that the family is the building block of society. Whether we do it explicitly or implicitly, we act as if it is true, right? Whereas in Europe and the UK, they believe that their elites and their institutions are the building block of society, and their job is to bring the family up, right? The family is a dependent of the institutions, whether that's the state or schools or whatever else. In America, we hate that idea. We don't like the Department of Education typically. We really don't like public school. Like if there was polls on approvals for approval levels for public school would probably be underwater all the time. We hate it. It's probably about as hated as Congress. We don't like to be nannied. We don't like to be babysat. We like people to be liable for whatever they do, right? We like people to be responsible for whatever they do. They might get extra chances, and we try to move heaven and earth to give people extra chances. We like a redemption story, but you need to have a downfall story first. You have to take the gutter guards off if you want bowling champions, all right? So what they want to do in the UK is they want to protect children. And this is a very Anglo, New England, like the Anglos in New England will do the same thing. Will you please think of the children, the sort of shrill Simpsons pastor's wife. They're protecting children, and they think the government should do it. Whereas in America, we think that parents should protect their children. Parents should regulate what's going on. Parents should be in charge, right? Parents in charge versus government in charge. And this is what makes the difference. Are you a family-centric society, and by extension, sort of a populist-centric society, or are you an elite and institutional-centric society? And I don't know if there's a lot of in between, because the root cause of both of those things is just simple personality. What kind of person are you? Who is responsible for you? Are we all together in one big ethno group, right? Am I going to complain about how society should do stuff, or am I going to say, you know what, I should do stuff. I should do this thing. Somebody good should run for president. And someone says, well, I'm going to go and find the candidate. You can actually see this pretty easily when people complain about voting, how it doesn't make a difference. What they're doing when they sort of black pill or say they have no power is they're excusing themselves from having to exercise their own agency, right? It's not just about voting. Like everything that goes up to voting matters. Like fundraising, finding candidates, doing the journalism to uncover if this candidate is good or not, going into their history. Vetting is, in other words, fundraising, vetting, and then promoting your candidate, right? Like the UK, a lot of guys will say it doesn't matter who we vote for. Well, in America, obviously it did matter who we voted for. We voted in Trump, and he was a dark horse candidate that came in and faced a ton of institutional resistance. But the institutions don't rule the Americans. The Americans rule the institutions, right? This is the difference, okay? the American family as a fundamental unit of society. Some people think that, like especially hardline liberals, will think that the individual is the fundamental unit of society. That's not, I don't think that's true. I think it's the family, because we kind of exist in a social context of a family. And you'll see people who are totally atomized typically just sort of dissolve away, right? That they're just by themselves in this world. So the family and the populist, as an extension of the family, rose up and changed our elites. You actually have the ability to do that. Now, the thing about it is that since we are not so institutionally heavy, we don't have issues like the AFD, people being what seems to be assassinated, right? It seems to be the AFD candidates are being assassinated. In America, that could happen, and people try to make it happen, but it's not typical. And the fact is that we would fight, well, not fight back, but like the fact that they have such a top-heavy civilization means that violence is really the only way that people can rise up and speak. Whereas in America, despite this strange little alliance that we have between our 50 states and the layers of government and the nuances and the really local-centric government, like almost all the government that really affects you is your local government, we have the ability to peacefully change power. And that's what democracy is about. It's actually about having the voice of the people. But the thing is, the people have to actually speak if you want to hear the voice of the people, or else democracy just gets hijacked. You have to assert yourself on the level of the family and of the community to make a difference. Individuals can be taken. That's the problem with the elite theory stuff, is that you have powerful individuals, but individuals can be dealt with. MAGA, for better or for worse, is bigger than Trump. It always has been. Like, he's the progenitor of the phrase, and he's sort of the mascot. But when you go to the rallies, you say, like, wow, that's really powerful. Look at all of these people that are here. That's what's making Trump possible. Like, the populism enables, facilitates, and leads to a changing of the elites in America, because we have a very democratic system from the local level up to the republic, where we get to change our representatives. And then our representatives vote on our behalf so that we don't have to be plugged in all the time, because there's a certain there's a certain trade-off between time and power, right? Like, you can't constantly be political all the time. You're supposed to have representatives that do that. But yes, the American system is actually bearing out fairly well, and that we did not and we do not need to have any sort of violence. Or maybe Luna on the live stream was right. Maybe they do have to be violent. I don't know. I don't think so. I hope not. I would do everything I can to avoid that, and fighting the optics war is important. Political candidates have been assassinated in the United States, but it's usually not in such great numbers, and only for one party. So we'll see how it goes. I think that the way the Europe is, I made a distinction on X Twitter earlier today, is that there's a difference between an ancestral and an antiquated civilization. Ancestral means that it has stood the test of time and continues to stand the test of time. I would say, like, Christianity in and of itself, like biblical Christianity, is a good ancestral system, right? However, antiquated is when it no longer serves its purpose. And a lot of European governments are very antiquated, and they actually have laws that stop you from peacefully transferring power. Whether it's on purpose or not, I don't know. But things like free speech are actually central to having a functioning democracy. So you have these Europeans and these people from England that are saying, like, democracy doesn't work. Well, so you don't have free speech, so you can't have democracy. It's like saying that, hunting is dumb, but we're not allowed to have guns. It's like, well, it's useless to go hunting. It's like, well, yeah, but you don't have a gun. You're like using a bow and arrow. You have to get really good at it before it becomes even a little bit effective. And even then, it takes years to get good at. So, yeah, it's the bitch-made part of someone's personal politics is whether or not they focus the locus of responsibility upon themselves, or if they put it on some elite or institutions. And I got to say right now, the people who put it on elites and institutions, such as the Democrats, the Europeans, the English, are falling apart. This elite theory stuff is suicide. The elite theory stuff robs the individual and the populace of any agency to try and make a difference. And you lead to this kind of like Gen X ennui, just so angsty, faux rebellious, because they're not really rebellious. They're just complaining about stuff. They just complain. They just whinge, right? It's the whinging. Americans hate a whinger. We're going to say, like, go do something about it, all right? And we don't mean, like, go get a rifle and do something about it. We mean, like, go do what Scott Presler is doing and go change registrations. Go fundraise. Go and find another candidate. Maybe go and follow someone's social media and see if they have consistencies or inconsistencies. Or even just support your local journalists. Because we had a massive number of journalists pop out of the woodwork for the MAGA movement, right? The truth set us free. And I'm thankful for that. So, yeah, yeah, your democracy's not working because it can't work, because you have an antiquated system and you need to change it and maybe be a little bit more American. However, they're trying to retreat now into systems that have died in like World War I, which may not be able to be resurrected. We'll see. I think you'd rather be better off just becoming a little bit more American and having a functional society than to go back in time 100 years. You know, as they say, the past is a foreign country. Is essentially you're going into a foreign country and trying to become something you're not. Like, you cannot become a Victorian. Like, a modern Englishman becoming a Victorian is like if I read a book about samurais and tried to become a samurai. It's like, I don't even have a mentor, right? Who's the Victorian to mentor you? Usually it's something that's done from birth. So I think it's a non-starter. I think that they're trying to go for something that's impossible, and they're trying to live like halfway between American and the past, and it's not jiving very well, and it's completely falling apart. And now the only way to really enact political change would be through force measures, which are bad optics and usually self-defeating. And I don't think the American Revolution had tremendous thinkers at the forefront of it, like Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Madison, all the rest of them, Adams, all these guys who worked very hard to try and draft up a system of government that could work. And they pulled back way like from the sort of triumvirate Roman Empire to the modern, what was modern then, English liberalism, right? And they crafted a nation that could work. It was a compromise. It actually fell apart once, and they had to rebuild it, right? The Articles of Confederation became, fell apart, and they led to the Constitution, okay? So, and they had great minds on the forefront of it. Who are the great minds right now who are going to help reform Europe into something functional, right? I mean, they could try to just copy America's homework, which is probably the best thing to do, honestly. But if they're trying to make some, Germany's are for Germans who are Germanic, and we're going to make a functioning society, they're going to have to look outward for answers on how to govern themselves. Singapore is also another example. They're looking at their enemies, and they're thinking that just simply vanquishing their enemies will win them the war. The war is the peace at the end. That's how you win the war. You get to the peace. But if you have just a bunch of Gen Z knuckleheads that don't know anything and they're just a cudgel, you're going to have a revolution without an end. You have a revolution that has no civilization at the end of it, and you just mutually assure destruction. What I'm saying is the American Revolution had great thinkers that drafted something that we could hold on to and have at the end of that revolution. You have to have your eyes forward towards a peace that's actually workable. And right now, I don't see a peace that's workable, because a lot of the betrayal that's happening in these countries is from their own people. Like, they'll complain about migrant invaders, but it's like, who let the invaders in? It was your own people. Who's restricting your ability to complain about the invaders? Who's putting you in jail? Right? It's your own people. The call is coming from inside the house. Trying to just go back to the way things were before was just going to get you right back to where you are now. I mean, to like black pill, but you guys got to put your thinking caps on and try it a little harder than this, because right now it's kind of pathetic. And oddly enough, I see people attacking the sort of classical liberal values of like property ownership, freedom of speech, that sort of stuff, and saying that this is bad, right? It always leads to communism, which is absolutely stupid. Like, free speech does not lead to communism, okay? I think jealousy and hatred and revolution lead to communism more than free speech does. So I don't know who's leading these people, but a lot of their thought leaders have really betrayed them. And a lot of these Gen Z guys are so impressionable, especially these online Gen Z guys. They're so impressionable that they will just parrot stuff without thinking about it. And they'll actively reject other viewpoints. And it's going to lead to a revolution that never ends, or just ends themselves. I don't see a lot of hope for them unless they can gain a level of humility. And I don't know, they've been programmed by their own institutions, ironically enough, to be very closed-minded. And I don't see anything changing that unless they have a major enlightenment, or their populists can buoy some elites that will then take them to the finish line. There's a relationship between the population and the elites. Or at least there should be, right? Anyways, that's about it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Have a good one.